Steve Kerr is a 4-time NBA champion as a coach, a 5-time NBA champion as a player, one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, at least I want to say at least top 10 as far as shot percentage. Um and he's just no doubt one of the greatest basketball minds ever. Like, he had the luxury of playing with Michael Jordan and Tim Duncan and Phil Jackson being his coach and Greg Popovich being his coach at one point. There's no doubt that he's a great basketball mind, but is he overrated? Hear me out. Hear me out before you start killing me in the comments. Just hear me out. So, Steve Kerr inherited the Golden State Warriors in 2013, 2014. And, he kind of lucked up because Steph Curry became one of the greatest shooters in NBA history. Not one of, the greatest shooter in NBA history. And top 2 point guards in NBA history. I haven't put him over Magic yet personally, but he's damn near close. He's close as hell. If not already there. Klay Thompson, one of the best Robins and best shooters, also one of the best shooters in NBA history. Draymond Green, just with all his flaws, he's still one of the best glue guys in NBA history. Golden State, I think they still have some sort of success, but they don't have the same amount of success without Draymond Green. That's my personal opinion. He's extremely important and impactful to that team and their dynasty. But can it be said that Golden State was already heading in that direction with Mark Jackson? Because every year with Mark Jackson, they got better. Mark Jackson put the battery in Steph Curry's back, telling him how much he believed in him. They were going to trade Steph Curry and keep Monte Ellis. But Mark Jackson lobbied and was like, no, don't do that. Keep Steph, because Steph was having a lot of ankle injuries and different things like that. The team, Golden State, was ready to get rid of him. Mark Jackson lobbied to keep Steph Curry and trade Monte Ellis for Andrew Bogut instead of trading Steph for Bogut. And every day, Mark Jackson would tell Steph how great he was and how great he could be. They drafted Klay Thompson because of Mark Jackson. He said, if we're going to get rid of Monte Ellis, the best partner for Steph Curry is a shooter, is a two-way shooter. Now, did he expect Klay to be as great as he ended up being? Probably not. And people forget, Klay had got arrested for some weed possession or something like that in college. People were passing up on Klay. He should have got drafted earlier than he actually did. People were passing up on him because he got in trouble. But Mark Jackson knew, or at least had the forethought, to pair him up with Steph Curry. Even Klay. He was a quiet guy. He wasn't I guess, I'm not saying he wasn't confident. He was confident enough to get in the NBA, but he wasn't he didn't think he was that great. As great as he turned out to be. Mark Jackson would tell him, hey, take your shots. I know Steph is running the show or whatever, but put that bitch up. Shoot that motherfucker. That's what he would tell him, that all the time. The only thing Steve Kerr really did that was different from what Mark Jackson was doing was that he chose to play Draymond Green, which was, like I said before, which was huge. A huge move, which changed the tide for them. It took them from a second round playoff team to NBA champs. And sometimes it is as subtle as one move. But does one move make you one of the greats? I don't know. He's going to go down as one of the greats because of the Golden State dynasty. But how much did Steve Kerr actually do to make that team? Mark Jackson made that team. He told the front office to keep Steph and push Steph and told Steph how great he was. He's the one who gave Klay his confidence to take his shots. and get himself in rhythm and move around without the ball. He told them to trade Monte Ellis for Andrew Bogut and not Steph. Steve Kerr came in and was just like, hey, we're going to put Draymond at the power forward. It worked, and they became one of the greatest teams ever off of the one move, but are we going to give Steve Kerr all of that credit? And as I said before, Golden State already was technically heading in that direction. The first year that they went to the playoffs, I forgot who they were playing against, but they took that team to 7 games or something. Then they played the Spurs, and at the time the Spurs were, I think 2014. In 2014, they took the Spurs to 7 games. And the Spurs ended up winning the championship that year. A couple plays, one more game, and Golden State is going to the next round at least and has a chance to go to the finals that year. Not the Spurs. And that was under Mark Jackson. Then next year, in 2015, Steve Kerr takes over, and they're the greatest team ever. They're the greatest team ever assembled. And then they win a championship. I believe they go, then the next time they go 73-9, which is the greatest record in regular season NBA history. And they lose. They lose that year. LeBron, I believe, 2016, they lose that year. And then they go and they get Kevin fucking Durant on a team that just went 73-9 and went to the finals and almost won. They add probably, if not one of the greatest scorer in NBA history, a 7-foot-tall shooting guard. Does that make Steve Kerr a great coach? He already had a great team that he inherited. They got, obviously they improved drastically with that move for Draymond, but he only made one real drastic move, and that was putting Draymond in the starting lineup. They won a championship, which great. That was because of Steve Kerr and the team that he put together, even though he inherited that team. They lose. They go 73-9 and lose. And then they add a 7-foot-tall shooting guard, one of the greatest scorers in NBA history. And they win 2 more championships. Probably would have won 3 if Draymond and KD didn't have that issue and they didn't have those injury issues with Clay and KD. I think they probably would have won 3 or 4. But that's a super team. They were already kind of a super team. And then they just added another Hall of Famer onto the team in his prime. Is that Steve Kerr? I think a lot of guys could coach that team. I think a lot of guys could coach that team. So the first championship, I'm not going to take any credit for him, but he did inherit a team that was already improving. You could argue Steph would have turned into that star, whether it was Steve Kerr or Mark Jackson, regardless. At least Steph. Maybe you could argue Clay, but Steph probably was going to make that jump in 2015 regardless. They win the championship, they lose. They add Kevin Durant, they win 2 more. They have injury issues and stuff like that. And they go through a dry spell. They lose a lot. Steve Kerr kind of showed that, and granted, Clay was out. Steph wasn't fully healthy during that period of time. Draymond was getting suspended a lot. He wasn't even fully healthy during that time. But it was a lot of bad basketball. It was a lot of small ball. Steve Kerr seems to love small ball for some reason in situations that don't require it. I'm not saying that they didn't have any issues with injuries and stuff like that. I'm saying they could have did better if Steve Kerr was as great of a coach as we make him out to be. And then during these struggles, they get a little strike of luck by getting a bunch of young guys through the draft and other various situations, like Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, and James Wiseman. Moses Moody, a couple other guys as well. Gary Payton Jr. And what do you do with those guys? Nothing. Nothing at all. James Wiseman, the first or second pick in one of those drafts, is wasting away in the G League. Jonathan Kuminga was barely able to touch the floor at all. And the only person that got like legitimate playing time was Jordan Poole, and that's because his play style matched Steph and Clay's. So he could come off the bench and give them a breather. But Steve Kerr didn't even try to get the young guys in. They could still be rolling. And I'm not just saying making the playoffs, but like championship contenders right now, if they would have kept those young guys and put them in the rotation. And they still ended up winning in 2022, which I was surprised at. I'm not going to lie. That was their fourth championship. They were relatively healthy. Jordan Poole coming off the bench. They were able, again, Boston choked as well. Boston had a tendency of being choke artists. And they won in 2022. And now they're we don't know what's going to happen now. They're kind of back in the sun. Clay is gone. Steph is still Steph Curry. Draymond is still there. All their young guys besides Kuminga is gone. I just feel like Steve Kerr never had control of that locker room fully because you lose KD because of the Draymond and KD issue. You lose Jordan Poole because of Draymond and Jordan Poole having an issue. But if you had better control of the locker room, I don't think that happens. And you could say, oh, that's just Draymond's just crazy. And yes, he is. He does tweak out. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, Klay Thompson left not because of money. They offered Klay more money than what Dallas gave him. He just wanted to leave. And again, Klay ain't the same. He got 2 bad knees. He's not the same. But that's not having control of the locker room. Klay is burnt out. Not from playing basketball, because if he was playing basketball, he would have retired. He just didn't want to play for Golden State anymore. One of the top 3 greatest Golden State Warriors of all time doesn't want to play there anymore. Why? Is it Draymond? I don't think it's Steph. I've never seen Klay and Draymond have an issue, at least on the court. That's got to be coaching. I did a video about this, you're relying too much on guys that are going to be gone soon. Even Steph, as great as Steph is, he's going to be gone in a few years. And you're wasting them away. You should have kept Jordan Poole. Yes, him and Draymond had the issue, but if you were in front of it already, that issue doesn't happen. You could have not lost KD. Klay Thompson should still be on this team. Jordan Poole should still be on this team. James Wiseman should still be on this team. Kuminga only gets to play because he complained to the media. And he's a really good player. 4 guys that could have carried you into the future, into more winning, you just let go. And again, that's part of this. The GM plays a part in that too. But Steve Kerr, I'm pretty sure you have a voice. I'm pretty sure you could have said, hey, keep Jordan Poole. Hey, let's keep Wiseman and try to keep working with him. He's the second pick. He's 7 feet tall. He runs the floor. He can shoot a little bit. He plays good defense. Let's work with him. Now he's wasting away in Detroit. And JP, Poole, he's shown how his play style doesn't work, but it doesn't work on a bad team. a team that's already bad. And I don't think he really cares about playing good basketball in Washington. Because why? We're not going to win anything anyway. We're not going to make... It's not like me moving the ball around ain't going to make us make the playoffs. I think he should try to be a leader and play better. But that's just not him and Kuzma's personality. But if you keep him in Golden State, you keep him with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. And to a certain extent, Draymond Green. He learns how to become that leader. At least somewhat. And so when Steph and Klay and those guys are gone, not from being traded, but from retiring, you're still in a good spot because then you have Jordan Poole, you have Kuminga, possibly Andrew Wiggins. You would have had James Wiseman, who could have been and still could be a star. And you build around those guys, you're winning for another 10 years. Maybe, obviously not every year, but they probably could have got one or two. But no, you push the young guys aside because you're so focused on Steph, Klay, and Draymond. And that's great. And I'm not saying don't be focused on them, but it's called implementing different people into the offense, implementing different people into the scheme. And I just feel like Steve Kerr can't do that. For him, it's small ball and sticking to the status quo, and that's not always the best way to continue winning. And I'm not taking away from what he's done. I'm just saying the continued success of Golden State has been hindered because of him and the front office. And to a certain extent, Draymond Green. But I feel like if he had more control of the locker room, if his schemes or his, not even his schemes, if his lineups were a little bit better, if he paid more attention and took more care of the young guys. Like Golden State missed out on such a huge opportunity, man. Like, God, like I did a whole video on it. I'll put the link in the description down below. What they could have accomplished by keeping those young guys, they still could have won in 2022 and still would have been contenders going into this season and next season. But no. Because Steve Kerr is stubborn. I don't even know. I don't even know what his problem is. We seen it in USA Basketball. Yes, we won gold, I know. But we struggled against certain teams because of those dumbass lineups he had out there. You have Tyrese Halliburton standing in the corner waiting for the ball when he's a pass-first, playmaking point guard. He can shoot, but that's standing in the corner, not his game. Would you put Steve Nash in the corner and just tell him just to wait for the ball? No. Halliburton should have been running the second unit with Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Embiid, and KD. Or Bam. However, it doesn't even matter. However you want to do it. Halliburton running the second unit with all scorers. That's a match made in heaven. And I'm not a coach. So if I can think of that, I'm pretty sure Steve Kerr thought of that. You would think. You're starting Steph Curry, Drew Holiday, Devin Booker, LeBron, and Embiid. Embiid is huffing and puffing out there. He shouldn't be starting. He should be playing a short amount of minutes. The amount of minutes that AD and Bam was playing, that's what Embiid should have been playing. Because he's out there huffing and puffing worse than me. My fat ass. You don't play Tatum, even though he just won a championship, when he could have been out there with Halliburton getting the ball and getting ISOs. And why the fuck are we starting Devin Booker and Drew Holiday? Don't get me wrong, down the stretch, Devin Booker played really good defense down the stretch in some of those games. And I was shocked. But is Devin Booker a defender? No. He's an isolation scorer. So shouldn't he be coming off the bench with the guy that passes the ball a lot? No, you got him out there with Steph Curry and LeBron James. LeBron James is a passer, don't get me wrong. But you got him out there with guys that need the ball in their hand. Or that are going to take a lot of shots. When you could have had Halliburton running the show with all scorers, coming off the bench That would have. If you're starting a game with Steph Curry, I'm sorry, I'm getting animated. If you're starting a game with Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Anthony Davis, and off the bench, that's ridiculous, right? Nobody, that lineup is probably going to be up 10, 20 points to start the game. And then you're following that up with Halliburton, Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Bam, and Joel Embiid. That's insurmountable. But when you're throwing out 3 guards against 7-footers, you're setting yourself up for failure. And we've seen it. We've seen it. I'm not talking out of my ass. We struggled against South Sudan, against Germany, against Serbia. France, even France. But he changed the lineups to get he changed the lineups a bit against France. But going against 7-footers and these big teams with playing small ball, the only reason we're winning these games is because in the fourth quarter you're putting out the 5 best guys and they're coming back. But that's not good basketball. Playing behind for 3 quarters every game and then trying to rally back in the fourth quarter isn't smart basketball. Did it work? Yes, but that's because LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant are 3 of the greatest motherfuckers to ever touch a basketball. So yes, it works out. But in 2028, you don't have those. You won't have them. I'm sorry. I did a video about that. I'm not gonna get into that. I just personally, I think unless they make a move for somebody, I think the Golden State dynasty is over with. And I think we're going to see within the next few years Steve Kerr, who Steve Kerr really is as a coach. I think we started to see it during those down years. I think we seen it during USA basketball. I think we're really going to see it within the next few years. Unless they make a crazy move for like marketing or somebody like that that'll put them back into contention. Unless that happens, we're going to see the real Steve Kerr, in my personal opinion. But let me know in the comments down below, am I fucking stupid? Or do you agree? Did you hear some of my points? It was like, hey, he might be on to something. But I'm happy to be back on YouTube. I'm going to try to post a little bit more than I was. I haven't posted a video in like 3 months or something like that. But I'm back on it. Head on over to the RMP podcast. We're very close to monetization. We are monetized. We're very close to tier 2 monetization. We're posting a lot more content. We talk about nerd stuff. We talk about pop culture. We do skits. A bunch of different stuff. So head on over to the RMP podcast. You won't be disappointed. You will be entertained. Sorry. It's RMP Entertainment now. My apologies. But you could type in RMP podcast and it'll still come up. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, make sure you ding that notification bell so you know every time I drop a video. And most of all, I love you guys. Peace out.
It's the 3 on PLAXtv.